if I did get killed in that accident, what would I actually be remembered for?
This episode of the podcast, we meet John Wingate, founder of the Blue Reef Festival, a surf and beach vibe music festival set in the beautiful Kent countryside. We talk all about life, death, and the mixed emotions that come with running a festival. Let's get into it. John, welcome to the podcast. Thanks for being here.
No problem, it's a pleasure.
So we were chatting earlier on about a load of different things, and Blue Reef's going into its third year of the festival. And I guess probably the biggest question that, well, I've known you for a little bit, so it's different, but probably anyone listening, the big thing will be like, what's it like owning your own festival or running your own festival?
It's every emotion you could ever think of. It's exciting, it's scary, it's everything. You name it. I mean, it's an adrenaline rush. It's, panic attacks. It's financially scary. But it's also the most rewarding. So you got that kind of that real roller coaster, and it is probably the biggest roller coaster I've ever been on doing this. It takes over your life.
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's 2 days, right? Like the festival.
Yeah, it sounds like nothing.
Yeah.
You say it's 2 days, but it's a year of work. So literally from when you finish, and I'm still doing my day job.
Yeah.
So you've got all that going on as well. So it's really hard work, but like I say, the most rewarding thing. Also, the biggest probably adrenaline rush.
That's pretty cool.
I mean, I used to race motorbikes, and so
what sort of bikes? Like dirt bikes, road bikes?
I done dirt for a while
Right.
when I was younger, and then went on to road racing. And when I retired, there was nothing really that replaced that adrenaline rush.
The speed and the thrill and everything.
Yeah, and
2 wheels, right?
There's nothing. I mean, and only people that have done it will understand. If you know what I mean, it's like anything. It's like stepping into a boxing ring or whatever. It's that the ultimate adrenaline rush, and then when I retired from that, it became a very mundane life, and because obviously you got nothing to replace that buzz. It's like a drug, adrenaline, and then when I started doing this, it replaced it.
That's awesome. I think, like, from an outsider point of view, you probably think that buzz is what the bands just get being on stage, right? You don't really think about it as the organiser.
The organisers, yeah. I mean, crikey. I mean, it becomes your baby. You've worked on this thing for a year, and you've worked it all out in your head, and you've all the different options and all the things that you can do, and then to sort of open those gates on a Friday morning and the floods of people start coming in. There's nothing like it. That feeling, and then seeing bands, and sometimes your favourite bands on your stage.
That's cool.
No, not many people, do this stuff. And there is a reason why.
It's pretty cool what you said as well about the floods of people coming in, because every festival's different, and obviously you've created something that you wanted to see. Is what you always say to me.
Yeah. Basically, it's a festival that I would like to go to. If I was going to a festival, I think there was one point, I think it was year one, where I stood up at the main stage, and there's a local band to us, and year one, obviously, we can't afford to have the big bands and things, so we had local bands and we had unknown bands, and there's a really good local band called Jet Black Bees who just rocked that stage, and they were playing. I think they were playing a Reef song actually, which was really cool. Another one of my favourite bands.
Yeah.
And I looked around, and I was standing up at main stage and looked over the audience, and I was looking at the audience all having a great time, and we had the big skate ramp there, and the skate ramp was going off, and the BMX guys were doing their stuff, and all the the festoon lights were all sort of now starting to glow, and it was just like yeah, this is what it's about, really.
I think that's got to be pretty rewarding to know that you have this sort of dream and this vibe that you want to put out, but now all these people walking through the gate are obviously sharing it.
Oh, totally. Yeah, totally. And I mean, the thing is, I mean, it's very tribal, this sort of thing, So, you kind of, I mean, no one knew what to expect year one. And I think year one, we pretty much smashed it with the size of the audience and all that. And that's down to basically the COVID situation and all that. We just had this dog-eared determination to go ahead with this thing no matter what. And every time we hit a barrier, it was like, oh, what have we got to do to break that barrier down? It was like another load of COVID restriction stuff, There was festivals closing and cancelling left, right, and centre, and we just had this thing, and probably me in particular had this thing. It's just got to go ahead, and realistically, and I use this analogy quite a lot. It's like the Forrest Gump thing where they were the last fishing boat in the harbour and they caught all the shrimp, and then Bubba Gump, and it was a bit like that. We were literally the last festival standing. Yeah. And we managed to sort of, everybody sort of flocked to us, which obviously stood us in good stead for going forward into the future, because obviously year one, no one knows what you like, what you're going to do, what they're going to hear, what they're going to, it's difficult. How do you get started with these things? Yeah. You've got no audience.
I think it's a good analogy what you use about the Bubba Gump thing, but I think what's really stands out from that as well is people needed that. Like in COVID, there was nothing for people to do. We were stuck at home. We were, really missing this social interaction and going out and hearing art, whether it be a band or watching someone paint or seeing some theatre.
Absolutely. Yeah. And there was a point in that weekend, and it was probably by about 10 o'clock on the Saturday. I wandered down to the dance tent area, and it was just going off. There was Cafe Del Mar was just blasting out, and everybody, people were on everybody's shoulders, and it was just this kind of, it was literally the last day of lockdown, and literally Monday morning, all lockdown restrictions were lifted. So it's just, and it was like this massive, I don't know, like this massive celebration of just being able to do that stuff again, and it almost seems totally, and it seems amazing thinking back now that what situation we were in at that point, but it is down to just we're going to do this anyway, no matter what, oh God, it's ridiculous when you look at not the restrictions, but the what they made us do to make this thing happen.
Sure.
But anybody that we were supposed to have an extra tent as well, so that anybody that tested positive with the temperature, they had to go into another tent, and then we had to let them stay there for an hour or something, and then check them again.
Oh, what, temperature-wise, just to cool down?
Yeah.
Oh, Christ.
And then after that, we could, if they went down, we could let them in. If they didn't go down, we took them in the woods and shot them. we would.
So there's a few bodies there on Loddington Farm now, yeah.
Well, no, we just then that's going. But I mean, thankfully, we didn't have any anyway. I mean, it was, but we had to fork out for all those guns. So we had to put in extra sort of flow fencing. So bars, you couldn't stand at a bar. You had to literally go in the fences at one end, get your drink, come out the other end, and it's very sort of clinical and very unsociable. They also made us so we had extra fencing to put in, extra thermometer things we had to buy, and we had to put in the one that I thought was a completely ridiculous rule was they wanted hay bales put over the whole site, 2 meters apart.
Oh, what? So people could not be socially distant?
Yeah. So the idea of it was, because I questioned the health and safety. Well, we questioned health and safety and sort of said, what is the idea of that? And the guy said, well, the idea is that people will go and sit on a hay bale and then their immediate friends will sit around them.
Yeah.
So each group is spaced 2 meters apart.
I mean, this is all outdoor. They do.
It was
understand
outdoors.
that, yeah.
And I sort of said, well, hay bales are movable.
Yeah.
How do we stop people picking a hay bale up and then making sofas out of them and all that, and which is exactly what happened.
And on top of that, you've got like Jetback Beast pumping out some like banging tunes right at the top.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a trip hazard for everyone going to be going through.
Yeah. I mean, we done our best. I mean, we did put them in, and actually it became a bit of a thing. You know, people actually liked the fact that we had the hay bales, and because we never intended putting them out, but it's become quite a feature of our thing. It makes it like rustic and a bit cooler and a bit different. But
when I first turned up, it was year 2, and I saw the hay bales, especially around the acoustic tent.
Yeah.
And it was a really cool vibe. You know, people chilling on that. You know, having a nice time in the sun. So
it makes a mess, but it does make a true hazard. Like you say, when you've got like Cafe Del Mar playing and people are dancing on a hay bale.
Yeah, they're not the most stable.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but anyway, it was all good, and people have gone with that as a feature of our thing, you know. So in a way, I've got to thank them for
the suggestion,
for
the creative
suggestion.
advice.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but it was at the time you think, you know, like I mean, I worked it out. You know, you sort of plot it out on a map, the whole sort of arena and 2 meters apart, and you try and work out how many hay bales you want, and you know, before you know it, you've done another 2,000 quid in hay bales that are going to be no good for anything else after.
Yeah, it's a big arena.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah, so you can't, you know, it's not something that's just you know, year one, you got no money. It's brand spanking new. You know, and at the time you don't even know what's going to happen. You know, you just sort of.
It's a massive gamble, isn't it? Because you're banking on, I love this. This is my vision. Are there other people out there who like the same thing?
Exactly.
And every time you add a cost to that gamble gets. I think probably a lot of times that stops people taking that gamble when they start actually adding up the figures.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people, and I was the same. You sort of think, oh yeah, let's do a festival, and then you start like getting into it, and all the red tape and all the finance side of it, and you know, because everything, or 90% of what you have to pay for has to be paid up front. You know, you can't wait till after the festival when you've got the money. It has to be paid up front.
Yeah, so before you've even sold the ticket, you need to be forking out cash.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, even to. Well, you're in marketing. I mean, to market it, so you've got to build a website. So you need someone to help you with that. So even right at that very early stage, the beginning, it's costing you money.
And then you need people to find it, so you're paying for radio ads and everything to go with it.
Everything, and so before you even sell a ticket, you know, and so it's a mad thing to do.
Out of curiosity, did you ever like sort of, you don't have to say their name because they may not want it up, but do you ever like keep an eye on who was the first ever ticket sale?
No.
That would have been interesting. Like, who was the first person ever to buy a Blue Reef ticket?
Yeah, it would be interesting.
Yeah,
actually.
You probably can go back through.
I can go back through history and find out.
Yeah.
And champion them as a.
Yeah.
I think
the first ever Blue Reefer.
I think I do know.
All right.
And I won't say it because obviously what happens is when you do this thing, you obviously tell your friends and family and blah blah blah.
Of course,
You know, before it goes out to the.
It's the guilt everyone you know into having to buy a ticket at the beginning, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
In case everything goes wrong.
I mean, well, you know, you'd think or you'd hope that your friends and family would support you in these things, and you know, you shouldn't have to sort of guilt them into it, but you go. Obviously, they know what you're doing, so you're talking to them, and then obviously when tickets become available, they're the first people to know.
Sure.
So I think maybe it was probably one of our friends.
Oh, that's cool. You have to find out and let them know. Yeah. Get a little like frame and like a ticket in there for them, and like the first ever Blue Reef.
It's a good idea. Actually.
Yeah, I mean, when you're in year 50, it's kind of big then, right?
Yeah,
that's the first 50. Person. Yeah, man.
Oh,
well, mate. I mean, you've probably, I don't know what you thought, but like after talking to you a little bit before, you go through year one, there's the whole adrenaline rush leading up to it. It obviously pays off on the day because you're seeing everyone enjoy it. You're watching the bands play. Like you said, the adrenaline's there, like riding a motorbike again. But then a week passes afterwards, and you have to decide: am I doing this again?
Absolutely.
And
Well, I had no question. I mean, for me, it's now a lifestyle thing, and I think, we're not quite there yet. But if it can make a living for me, that's where I'm going, is down that route. I mean,
because right now you're still working your day job plus running a festival,
cabinet maker,
plus on top
carpenter.
of that you've got a cafe on Loddington Farm where you host live music events as well.
Right. Yeah, I know. I don't
you
make
and your
life
son
easy.
Scott, right?
I don't make life easy for myself, and I've always been a bit like that. I've always had loads of stuff going on, whether it's sport. Or work or whatever. I've got one of those chaotic brains. It just never ever stops. And it's good when I was in the sport. When I was in racing, and I used to do taekwondo and kickboxing and all that kind of stuff as well. And I've always I've never been great at. I mean, I was quite a good motorbike racer. I used to like racing British Championships and things like that, and. So, but everything else I've been sort of, I can do it, but I've never been that great at it. But, like the martial arts and things, and but I competed. So, but they've always kept my brain active because when you got your work going on, it's nice to have something else to think about.
Yeah, of course.
Other than just work and ordinary life, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And I've always been quite good at being very focused on those things, And then when all that kind of stopped, the sport and stuff, it kind of, I need that, and so
feels like there's nothing left to live for if you just go on to work every day to earn a crust.
Totally, yeah. And but I've got other passions as well. I mean, I like surfing and the skate scene and all this kind of thing, and. I use my skills to obviously drive those passions as well. Like, I make my own boards and stuff. And
surfboards or skateboards?
Both,
really?
Yeah. Well, I've actually been making a surfboard for about 3 years.
Oh, right. Longboard, shortboard?
It's medium, so it's like what they call a mini mount. So, like 8 foot, sort of nice. solid wood. Okay. Made a bit like an aeroplane wing, So like you got the spine and you got the ribs, and then you just put like a thin layer of lightweight wood over it, and then resin, blah blah blah. But where I have this chaotic brain and I'm off doing lots of things. Sure. Obviously, I only get very limited time to be able to devote to sort of.
3 years, no need to remind me every 6 months to finish it. That sort of thing.
Yeah. And I will, before the day I die, ride that board.
Oh, that's cool.
But we don't even know when that's going to be, do we?
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, you've got a story with that, haven't you?
Yeah, exactly.
I think, when we've talked about it a few times, and every time we get into it, I kind of try to stop the situation. Because I'm like, I really think this would be a great thing to let people hear about. So how did the whole festival come about? Because you weren't always thinking about running a festival.
Well, I mean, it's been a bit of a bucket list thing for me anyway, the festival. I mean, I've sort of always kind of hankered. I mean, live, just music in general is another massive passion in my life. So I've always fancied it, and it's always been a bit of a bucket. I'd love to do it, and I've thought about like all sorts of things, like renting a church and these kind of things, and then turning it into a music venue and blah blah blah, whatever. But and then sort of going to lots of festivals and things. I've always sort of hankered for it, but never had the inclination. Thought it was way out of reach. Couldn't normal bloke like me, how are you going to ever do that type of thing? And then I had this massive bloody industrial accident that nearly ended my life, and I remember laying in hospital, and I spent quite a time in King's College in London, and laying there and just sort of thinking, if I did get killed in that accident, what would I actually be remembered for? And it sounds a bit narcissistic and a bit like, but I thought, it'd be very quickly that everyone sort of, oh, he's a nice bloke and he worked hard.
Yeah, sure. I mean, they have that saying that usually it's only 3 generations of people who remember you anyway, like your direct partners, your kids, your grandkids, and then you're faded. And there's 2 times you die when you die, and then the last time someone ever says your name.
Right, okay.
Which is kind of interesting, I think, because you think in our local village we've got a little old, church with a graveyard there, and I walked the dog through, and very rarely ever thought about the graveyard, but I went for a walk there a couple of weeks ago, and have a look at the headstones, and there's headstones from 1600s, and you read it and you think I wonder who's still caring about this person buried there, right?
I mean, they've long gone, haven't they?
And
but yeah, I mean, it wasn't me being a narcissist trying to sort of like everyone should remember me, and I want a blue plaque and all that. But it was just this kind of like suddenly dawned on me. I think what it does, it makes you think about what have you actually done.
I think that's the real thing, isn't it?
And it's personal. It's not like so that everyone remembers me. It's for me, and I thought, blimey, and then you suddenly think, the only way these things I've got to do them. You've got if there's things you want to do, it's not going to happen without me actually getting off my arse and doing it.
Yeah.
And and not only that, but you need to have people around you to help you. You kind of have an idea, and you sort of. You're not selling it, but I find it very easy to talk about the festival because it's a passion. I love it.
Yeah.
And then when I talk about it, other people get enthused, and so and then you sort of build up this kind of tribe of people that want to get involved and help you. So you can't do it on. It's impossible to do it on your own.
Yeah, sure. It starts off as yours, but it becomes everyone's.
Yeah. I mean, it's obviously it's still got to be the vision I had or whatever,
Yeah, sure. You're not about to get Girls Aloud Reunited back on the stage.
Exactly.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So it was born out of that accident.
I think you played down that accident quite a little bit, and there might be people listening for the first time. You go, oh, it's an industrial accident, but it's not just an industrial accident.
So we had a big. It's a long story. I don't want to go into the full length of it, but I had a business that I wasn't enjoying. I'm a creative person. I like making things with my hands. Yeah. And unfortunately, to compete in the kitchen business or whatever, the cabinet making business. You have to go a bit computerised and, pumping out lots of stuff.
Machines get involved.
Totally. What happened was I became sort of a button pusher, really, and wasn't very creative. I was making boxes to go on kitchen walls, if you know what I mean.
Okay, the white boxes, they put their own
absolutely,
doors on.
And it wasn't me. Didn't like it. Friend of mine who I worked with for years, wanted to sort of expand his business, which was quite antiquated, more labour intensive than machine intensive, and so he sort of contacted me, and I sort of said, well, look, I don't like what I'm doing. I'm happy to sort of walk away if you want to take it over, blah blah blah, and we sort of made an agreement that I was going to work there for a bit of time. They consequently had a flood and things, and broke some of the machinery. There was bits of it that wasn't working properly, and we didn't really know some of the safety features. And I unfortunately found one of the safety features that wasn't really working very well. So anyway, we had this big cutting machine, CNC cutting machine. It's a big flatbed, 6 meters by 4 meters or something like that, big old thing, with lots of cutting heads that go over the machine and cut out all the pieces that you need to make a kitchen cabinet. So you lay your big sheet on there, and it just goes away and does it all automated. But there's a consequence of basically it sucks air through the table to suck your workpiece down.
Okay, so it keeps it there basically.
That's it, yeah. And if there's not enough suction, it won't start. And there's a bit of a procedure you could go through to start the machine. You walk across like the safety mat, cuts out the sort of start-up procedure, but it keeps the vacuum working that sucked the thing down. So you could actually then walk around the table, find out where the air was leaking from, and sort it out. I happened to sort of walk over to the safety mat, a bit of it that none of us knew wasn't working, and sat on the back of the machine and put my hand on where it was leaking. And because the machine didn't know I was there, I put my hand on, which created enough suction.
So it closed the circuit effectively.
Yeah.
Because the safety mat's not recognising you're on there.
Exactly.
You've closed up the leak.
Exactly.
Now the machine's...
Yeah. And it started with me kind of in it.
Jesus.
And
imagine this is like kitchen board, so it's not a lot of space is going to leave you.
No, so the arm that goes over the top of the table basically is about 5 inches above the table. So that sort of ran me into the table, and then kind of folded me up into the machine, and consequently started breaking me.
Jesus.
Slowly. And it wasn't even fast. It was slow.
Oh right, so it's just slowly adding pressure onto your body, crushing.
Yeah, that's it. Crushing until I could feel all my ribs breaking, and it's kind of sort of mangling me up onto
the. It's hydraulic, so you've got no chance of fighting it.
No chance. Yeah. It didn't know I was there. I'm just it wouldn't register that I'm there at all. Bloody hell. So it started mangling me up onto the table, and then the cutting head even came over and went right above my head, so it was going to start cutting and drilling.
So at this point you're thinking, I'm done.
Game over. Honestly, I mean, when people say, when they have a crash or that blah blah blah, they go, I nearly died.
Yeah.
Well, I
nearly died
at that point, and I honestly thought, I can't get out of this. This is going to kill me. And those were the thoughts that were going through my head. And it was really weird because it wasn't any panic or anything like that. It was just, that's it. I can't do it.
Crushed, your ribs are being broken, you're losing lung capacity.
Yeah.
It's just,
and I can't do anything about it. Just literally in it for the ride. And then what happened? I mean, for some reason, this thing came down on my head, the cutting, the bit that does the cutting and the drilling, and that was the point where this machine either gets stopped now or I am dead. That is it. There's no in between here, And I had this arm literally dangling down the side of the machine and felt the stop button, and I literally just stopped it myself. But by then I am properly mangled up in this machine. And
stopped, but you're there. You're all right.
That's all. I knew I'd stop the machine, but I am in it. And the cutting head had pushed my head against the table. I'm now crushed in. I'm not a big bloke anyway. Luckily, I'm quite a skinny bloke, but I was crushed into 5 inches. So I can't breathe. I can't shout. I can't scream.
So did they find you quickly?
Yeah, so luckily enough, I had a very good friend of mine in the workshop, Brian, who basically raised the alarm, which was good because I worked in that workshop a lot on my own. Which is crazy. God, I used to do late nights. A typical business owner, when you're trying to make a blinking living. Things have to go out.
Orders are behind you, go through.
Your workforce go home, and you end up staying and getting things done. And so I used to be there on my own a lot, And if that had happened at night, I definitely wouldn't be here now, So I had a lot of things in my favour that day. It doesn't sound like it, but I did. You know, when they phoned the ambulance, it was literally at the end of the road, and like it was there in, well, it seemed like minutes. It might not have been, but it seemed like it to me. And
which is pretty good, because normally when you're in that situation, a minute feels like an hour.
yeah,
So
I mean, but to be honest, I probably didn't know what was going on. I mean, the adrenaline and everything was rushing,
sure.
and because I only had this arm sticking out the machine, everything else was in
Mangled
there.
up.
They just put loads of painkiller and sort of morphine and all sorts of things in that arm, and you know, and I mean, luckily for me, I'm not a panicker, so I kept myself calm. And,
I'm being crushed alive and nearly had my head drilled. I'm not a panicker.
To be honest with you, I wonder if my motorcycle racing and stuff like that kind of, because you're used to.
Well, you've touched death, haven't you? Motorcycle racing for sure.
That's
you
right.
take a corner and you get a slight wobble.
Crashing is part of it, and like, you know, some people who aren't. I mean, if you get people who ride on the road and they have a crash and they're traumatized for the rest of their life, you know. I mean, we done that week in, week out, and you kind of become hardened to, one, being injured, and two, being in a situation that you've got kind of no control over. You know, you once you've kind of hit the ground, you're just on autopilot, and you're going with whatever happens. And I think in it was a similar situation, really. But it was the. I mean, you don't get time to think when you crash on a motorbike. You know, when you crash on a motorbike, you end up in the gravel trap. And you think, the bloody hell did that happen? You know, but with this, it was slow, and I had time to think. I am going to die here. You know, and that was the thing. And anyway, ambulance turned up. They sort of got some painkiller into me. There was like this kind of big rubber curtain thing that goes around the cutting head, and they had to sort of cut that off to get some sort of oxygen mask onto me, and my head like literally was like this, and all I could do was blink to communicate, because I had no way of talking, you know.
You said to me, I thought it was actually a pretty good way of saying it. You said to me, if you can imagine someone pressing all the air out of you, or blowing all the air out of yourself for like 30 seconds, then try to speak. That's what it was like.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Yeah, crazy.
Yeah. You can't communicate at all, and so I could get tiny little breaths, and then, but then of course we had to then wait for the other emergency services to turn up to actually try and get me out of this thing, you know. And so the air ambulance, I mean, again, luckily the air ambulance were on their way back from a shout. Instead of landing and then having to come out again, they literally, you know, came straight to me. And I think they were in the I mean, still the air ambulance, but they came in a Land Rover or something. So they were on site, and I've spoken to a guy called Stuart Plumley just recently, actually, who was one of the air ambulance.
Oh, right, that's cool.
Guys, and he said to me, he said, you know, when they got the shout that they got a man stuck in a machine, they thought, that's a bit odd. You know, I mean, he was saying like 90% of their call outs are road traffic accidents.
Yeah,
you know,
sure.
and so you got a man stuck in the machine, and he said he walked in, and they thought, how are we going to get this bloke out of this thing? Because that's something they've never dealt with before, you know. And anyway, the fire brigade turned up, and from Lewes Road, just down the road, and apparently they had just been given some new bit of kit, sort of lifting kit or whatever, and they managed to sort of just give me another sort of 10 millimeters of space. But one of the problems I had was I had two router cutters in my back.
Right, they'd already started boring.
Well, they were actually on the arm. So you got an arm with all the cutters on it, and basically the cutting head will go over, pick up what cutter it needs, and then do the cutting and put it back. So they were on this arm. So they weren't actually being used for cutting. They were just being used as a holder, and but obviously that arm had gone into my back, and the routers had sort of penetrated into my back. And so one of the things that was holding it all up was these two routers that were in my back, and they'd luckily gone either side of my spine. They'd gone into the flesh, but not sort of cut into any sort of...
another thing going for you for the day.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like, another few inches over, and it would have been in my spine, and things would have been completely different. And so the only way, initially before that, they sort of said to me that we thinking of starting the machine up again and putting it into like a reverse kind of thing to try and reverse it back out.
Yeah. That's got to be a scary thought, though, as well, like turning the machine back on.
Yeah, well, because what they've done, they just killed all the power to the machine to stop it going anywhere else.
Yeah.
And, and then so they thought, well, let's try, is this an option type of thing? And they asked me if I was okay with them doing that. And I at that time, I want to get out of the thing, And...
how long was this that you're in there for at this point?
At that point, probably half an hour.
Okay. All right. Still a long time.
Yeah.
Being crushed by
and not being able to breathe and all this. And, kind of I was sort of dozy, but still could communicate. And anyway, I agreed to try. And... as soon as they started the machine up, the first thing it done was went forward.
Oh shit! So it started crushing even more.
Yeah. So what happened was the anything that they managed to get me before then, they've gone again. So they stopped it again. So the only way really that they could get these routers out of my back was actually to pull them out of basically what's a C clip, which means pulling it further into my back.
Oh, so through it. So
yeah.
Oh.
So they were a bit reluctant to do it, but they realistically it was the only way. And by then I didn't care. I just wanted to get out.
Yeah.
And so I had to sort of blink for yes or twice for yes or whatever, and I was just like go for it type thing, and they done it. I mean, to be honest, by then I didn't feel any pain. It was just like it was just all really painful. So it didn't add to it. Okay. I didn't notice it as such.
It's always a thing I always wonder, like in those situations you hear the story and you wonder, like, do you feel every single thing?
No, I mean it's a really weird thing because I didn't really feel pain. I thought I was going to die and all these kind of things, and I think in a way something goes weird with your body and cancels out that kind of.
You've got the adrenaline boiling.
Yeah, that's it. The adrenaline
about everything else.
It's that fight or flight mentality where you're just thinking, whatever happens, I've got to try and escape this thing, and I think maybe something goes weird with your brain and it blocks out the pain to get you through the escape, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And but anyway, it wasn't until. Anyway, they eventually got these things out my back, and they managed to sort of slide a board out from underneath me, which gave me a bit of room. And I've still got it's funny because the table had these like little sort of square shapes for allowing air to pass through. And I've still got those scars.
I think it's some cookie cutters.
Yeah, I've still got those scars on my chest. So when I get a suntan, you can still see them
because it stays light. The scar tissue.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's given me a mark.
Okay.
Anyway, so they managed to pull that board out, which gave me 18 millimeters more space, and then once they pulled that out, it was an amazing amount of comfort from that. But then what they had to do was get this kind of lifting gear underneath to sort of separate the I mean, it was a huge chunk of metal. It was sort of, I don't know, maybe 8 inches by 4 inches, like beam. So they had to, get this lifting gear, lift it up, and then kind of slide a sort of stretcher or just a board or whatever it was underneath me and slide me out. And it wasn't until then they kind of got me out and had to turn me over when all the pain
kicked in.
That's when it kicked in. Yeah, and I let out a scream that I've never done ever before. You know, like I didn't even know my body could produce that kind of noise. But that's when it really kicked in. And then they were going to take me by air ambulance and decided that it was a bit too risky because they didn't know the extent of my injuries at that time, and they thought putting me in the helicopter was a possibility that I could peg out on the journey.
Oh, really?
And they can't get to you. They can't work.
You can't work on anyone.
Yeah, because you kind of end up in the tail of the helicopter. So they decided to take me by a normal conventional land ambulance and from Laddingford to King's College in London.
Bloody hell.
Yeah, so it's a long old journey. Luckily they put a policeman in front, clearing the way with the ambulance following behind. And I just remember crashing. I mean, I remember feeling incredibly sick on the journey and all these kind of things. I didn't know what was going on. But the air ambulance guys actually came with me in the ambulance and crashing through the doors at King's, and then it all just hell breaking loose, you know. And I had to go straight into operating theatre because my liver was bleeding and, you know, all sorts of crazy things.
How long was the recovery from that?
Well, I only spent a month in King's College.
No way.
Yeah, 1 month.
Before you got sent home?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. I had 3 operations, I think, while I was in there. They couldn't stop my lungs bleeding. I had to have lung drains and all these kind of things. And
I bet you that's a pleasure.
Eh?
I bet you that's a pleasure, having your lung drained.
Yeah, no, it's actually, I mean, it's not as bad as it sounds, but they make an incision under your armpit and stick a pipe in that way,
and then hoover it all out. Yeah.
Yeah, well, just leave it. You were attached to it for days.
Constantly. All right.
Yeah, because I was constantly bleeding.
Yeah.
And they just need to make sure
it's all the internal blood, all the internal bleeding.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so all my injuries were all internal. Like to look at me from the outside, it didn't. I had some massive bruising. Yeah. I mean, I was black from my shoulder to my bum. You know, but you wouldn't think there was anything really wrong with me, you know, and so it was all internal, but it was all everything was bleeding inside, so that was a real kind of that was a bit of a problem because they were saying what happens normally, you get a punctured lung, your bone punctures the lung, and there's an injury. With mine, what it done, it had sort of kind of crushed me and scraped me, and what had happened is it made all the blood vessels in my lung bleed.
Yeah, so you could potentially drown in your own blood.
Yeah, exactly. And so they had to do an operation, but they use some I don't know what it is or how they do it, but it's some sort of powder that they coat the inside of your lung with, and so they had to sort of get in and do all that. And
interesting.
But they couldn't. They struggled to stop it bleeding, and that was one of the reasons why I stayed in so long. Then I got an infection from being in there, and I think it was about 48 hours after going in, I stopped breathing, and I went off for a little while.
Yeah, you were sayonara for a bit.
Yeah, and luckily they were on instantly and sorted me out, and I remember waking up from that with about 20 people around the bed, all sort of massaging me and sorting, and all pipes and beepy things, and it's a real head to her.
So you officially clocked off for a little bit.
Yeah.
God.
And then so it was probably, a good 6 months before I kind of got myself into a state where I could walk any distance or anything like that. It was probably a year in total of recovery.
That's crazy.
Before I could work how I normally worked and stuff like that. But now I've still got residual kind of pain in around my rib area that doesn't stop me doing anything. But it's always there.
It's always going to be.
It's always there. It's like nerve sort of damage. Because what happened as well, my stomach muscles got ripped from my rib cage. So that actually was the worst pain I had. All the rest of it wasn't as bad as that. That was exceptional pain. And I consider that I've got quite a high pain threshold, but that was amazing pain.
Yeah.
And that's the pain I've been left with, actually, that area. But yeah, so coming round from that, then you kind of have a bit of a change of attitude in life, a little bit, and all those things that sort of seemed to matter before didn't really matter so much anymore.
Those things that mattered in the back of your mind mattered a hell of a lot more.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so like I think there's this sort of society kind of led thing where you're made to think you've got to better yourself. You got to you need a bigger house, you need a bigger car, you need gates on your drive, you need blah blah blah, all these things, and all of that just went in an instant, And I literally thought then, it's about memories, and it's about living, and it's about creating. All that other stuff doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
And
I mean, it's nice to have, but it shouldn't become priority over those other things.
No, not at all. I mean, I don't begrudge people for having it, and or wanting it, But for me personally, it didn't. That wasn't the important thing in my life anymore, and creating memories and being around people that mean something to you and all that kind of thing was much more important than all that other stuff.
I think it's a really. I mean, not many people get that opportunity in life.
No,
and they go through the whole life living it day by day, like you said, to get the fence at the end of the driveway, or the gates at the end of the driveway.
Exactly. And like I say, I mean, everybody's different, and that's what makes. But I think the world an interesting place.
If you crushed a lot of people in a machine and left them there for an hour and a half, and then they die, at some point, I think most people would reevaluate their life.
Oh, totally. And I've said it a lot. I still think it's the best thing that's ever happened to me, because it gave me the kick up the backside that not many other people get, and you've got to almost basically die for that to happen, which is an unfortunate thing, but in reality, unless you have that kind of happen to you, you're never gonna really break out of that sort of.
Yeah, it's a lot harder for most people to break out of that mold without that experience.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, there are a few people who can do it, but it's rare.
Yeah, we should all go and get ourselves crushed in a machine.
Yeah, you can start that at the festival. It could be like
the world would be a really interesting.
Get a hot dog over here, a beer here, and you can get a life-changing experience.
Because it makes you wonder how many people stifle their creativity, or you might. There's loads of people out there love playing music, or love painting, or love whatever it is they do, but they haven't got time because they've got to earn. We've all got to earn a bloody living, and it's a real sad sort of state of affairs, isn't it, really, when you can't really sort of
for sure. I mean, it's a life
get your
not lived
creativity out there,
We were talking about it today, like if you get on your deathbed, you'll never get there and regret not buying something, but you may regret missing moments like this in life, or doing something that you wanted to chase.
Yeah.
No one gets on the deathbed and says, I really wanted that, gold candelabra that I saw one time in Marks and Spencer's or something like this. So from that, the festival's born.
Yeah, oh, totally. Well, lots of things, but the festival, I mean, and not only it wasn't all because of that, but also our business reached its 10th anniversary, and we thought, we should do something. So originally we just thought, we'll have a bit of a party and do it sort of around the now where basically the coffee shop is, and do it there and have a bit of a festival vibe, and thought we'd include Musket Brewery and all that because there's a brewery on site, and
'Cause it's Loddington Farm.
yeah,
Where it's all
yeah,
based,
that's it. Yeah, Loddington Farm, lots of little businesses up there, very sort of creative sort of place, and so we thought we'd hold it there, which is basically a working farmyard still, but there's obviously rented buildings. Like most farms now have to diversify and use their buildings and land for other things.
Yeah.
And it very quickly became apparent that there was quite a few people wanting to go to this thing, So we thought perhaps we'll put some tickets up for sale, help pay for it, so we can put some bands on and all this kind of thing. And very quickly sold 500 tickets.
Bloody hell.
And it was like, oh, this area isn't really set up for 500 people and all the cars and the camping and the stuff that goes with it. So James, the farmer, came and saw us and sort of said, look, a bit worried about this the health and safety, everything is a bit of an issue. So they had this field down the bottom of the farm, and James sort of said, look, if I'd prefer if you'd done it down there. And I'd be totally honest, I wasn't up for it at the time because I was thinking, I had a vision of, because all the businesses are up the top end of the farm, down the bottom end of the farm, there's nothing there. And the idea was to sort of showcase everybody's business and ours, and it was more about that really. And so I kind of had to be talked into it to move it down there.
It's like James saying, if you build it, they will come.
yeah. And so anyway, we went with it, and obviously what we was going to do at the top end of the farm would have been ridiculous in that field because the field's massive, and that area up there is quite small and made up of buildings and alleyways and odds and sods, and so we had to go big, and that's where I kind of really started from, really.
That's cool. Like it's thrust upon you, and then you take up the challenge, and
then it's a case of right, we've really got to go for it, and that's what it was, and of course we was in COVID, all that kind of stuff, and I absolutely loved every minute of it. And so I wanted to do it again as soon as I,
So year one finishes, you get sort of the hangover of spending 363 days organising it,
exactly.
and then 2 days of running it.
Yeah.
And then you've got to decide, all right, I go for this again or not. You do.
Yeah.
You go for it.
Yeah.
Last year I was there for the first time. I didn't know anything about it originally first. And then getting there, I was like, this is amazing. Especially for the area in Maidstone in Kent.
And we had that in year one as well, because, I think nobody knew what to expect at all. And I think we really went for it. I mean, we was lucky as well. We use a local company for all the stage and lighting called SA Events, and they were brilliant. I mean, they sort of, during that time, these companies were really suffering. There was nothing going on. They were an events company, and no events were happening. So we come along, and we were like, we're going for it, and so they jumped on board and were amazing. And basically, they had a warehouse full of stuff, and basically brought the whole warehouse, and we had all like coloured lights in the trees, and you name it. It was there, and so people. And obviously, we done it cheap because one we didn't really know what we were doing. We didn't know how many people were going to come. We sort of and also, if you don't do it cheap on your first go, no one's going to come. So you've got to start somewhere.
Yeah, sure.
You
build up to it.
Yeah. So massive loss leader for us. It was like all out of our pocket, and you kind of, the tickets were peanuts. Didn't go anywhere near to pay for it. So we sort of we just done it as that's a bit of a bonus. We got some money in.
Sure.
But but what it did do, it stood us in good stead. So we went for it. I mean, if we had sort of done a half-hearted attempt, would then people want to come back?
Yeah, sure. So you invested and you've made
you've got
people that
you've
are
got to
now
invest,
fans.
and year one was a beautiful thing. I mean, like, people turned up and they properly loved it, and have kind of fallen in love with the whole Blue Reef vibe.
Well, I see now on your social media people saying, like, I'm coming back for a third year.
Exactly.
A lot of them as well. It's not like one or two.
It's an amazing feeling, and also, creating memories for people is just a beautiful thing, and I've had people say to me, I met my now husband at your festival, and I met all these kind of nice things, so it makes you want to carry on. You want to carry on for them as well as yourself, So it's a really, really nice, rewarding thing to do. But it's also really, really stressful.
And expensive.
Mega expensive.
Yeah.
And this is the thing, like, people don't realise the what goes into it. The money side of it is amazing. You wouldn't, no one would realise. I didn't.
Yeah.
When I used to go to festivals, and
I mean, when you look at it from an outside point of view, it doesn't look like much. It's a field with some music and a band and a couple of hay bales, right?
Exactly. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But even down to your wristbands.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone wears their wristbands, and some people have 2 or 3 on.
Yeah.
But there's a cost element for everything.
Yeah.
Everything that's there in that field has to be paid for, and people don't. I've had people question me, what, you have to pay the bands to play on your stage? Like, what do you think they're going to come and play for free? I mean, everything has to be paid for.
Yeah.
And it's tough.
Yeah.
Really tough. And and you need people to invest. I mean, I've used the thing as well in the recent past of that. We're all in it as a team, including punters. So people who are coming are part of our team.
Yeah, well, they're parting with their money because they believe in your vision.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But without them, we can't do it.
Yeah, of course.
If they don't come, we can't do it. The musicians have got nowhere to play. So we all have to kind of work together to make these things happen. Yeah. And we all need to get off our backsides. And it's the old saying, isn't it? If you don't use it, you lose it. Like, people all moan when the local butcher closes. Oh, God, that's a shame.
How many times did you visit him in the last 2
they
years?
went there for Christmas for their turkey.
Yeah. And that was only because they wanted to tell their friends they got the turkey from the butcher. It wasn't because...
It's like the local pub. The local pub closed. Oh, another pub. Oh, what a shame. Oh, local pub's closing, blah, blah, blah. When was the last time that you went there? When did you support them? It's not about going once every 3 months. Yeah. You need to be going 2-3 times a week. You need to support
sometimes 7.
Well, if you've got a decent pub, but it's about that, and it's about like what we do. I mean, like we put these music events on up at the farm and at the coffee shop, and you need people to get on board and come and support, because otherwise, if they don't, we can't do it. We're not going to do it for free, So
you can't do it for free. Otherwise, you'd be homeless after like a couple of
exactly.
years of it.
Well, the business would fold. The coffee shop would close. The music, again, another venue. I mean, it's a good outdoor music venue where musicians can come and show their craft and their art. And
one thing I really like about, because now you're in year 3, you're attracting some bigger bands. You've got Reef obviously headlining this year, which is huge.
Yeah. and great for me, being a massive fan.
Well, you said to me that they were your favourite band growing up. And so I kind of like wonder if you've peaked too early, because what do you do next year now?
Well, the thing is, I kind of know the guys anyway. I can Jack the bassist, I know him pretty well, and so that was my in really to get them. It's difficult. I mean, I'm already thinking about 24. Yeah, music for 24.
But what do you do now? Like, you've got Reef, you've kind of nailed it. So you're
for me. I mean, I if it all ended after that,
you can hop back in the machine now.
Yeah, that's it, exactly. But as a going forward, you've got to. I mean, people would expect, I guess, that for it to grow, the bands to get bigger, blah blah blah. You know.
One thing I like what you've done though, because even though you're attracting bigger talent to the festival, you're still staying with your roots of giving discovery to people.
Yes.
And even me personally, I've become a fan of a lot of the smaller bands that you promote.
Yeah.
Because I don't think they, in this day and age, they get enough airtime. Like radio's not interested in that. They're interested in numbers,
Absolutely.
pumping out as much adverts as they can, repeating the same song over and over. And so being at the festival last year, people like Tom Dibb, you know, I fell in love with Tom Dibb. I probably added like 1,000 streams to his Spotify over the last couple of weeks. Thomas Abrahams.
Amazing.
Hannigan, another one. I was lucky enough to see him live at the cafe.
I mean, like these guys have been with us from sort of year one, and they're virtually Blue Reef artists in residence. You know, they fit our scene perfectly. Great musicians, lovely to be around as well. You know, I mean, they're just a joy to have at your festival anyway. You know, they're just interesting, fun people who get what we're doing and want to support us. You know, you find with some of the bigger bands that they don't really care about you and what you're doing. You know, they're there to collect
the vibe as the check.
Yeah, that's you know I get that. You know, but I think. I don't want to sort of talk out of turn, but a lot of the time, the smaller guys are better and more interesting to watch because they're hungry. They love. They're still real passionate about what they do. The bigger bands are coming to your festival to get paid, and I don't want to.
None of the ones coming to your festival. Well, I mean, you're quite tight with the Reef guys anyway. So it's a bit different on that.
Yeah,
on that sense
and it was really nice that we got Top Loader on Friday, and they kind of contacted me and said, we've heard good things about your festival and want to play it. So that's really nice, complimentary.
Yeah, it's nice. I think if people are starting to hit you up, it's a big change for you having to chase around.
Yeah. I mean, you can imagine year one, you've got no history. No one knows anything about you. You contact a band and they've got no inclination to play your festival at all.
But to be in year three and have people tapping you up is amazing.
Yeah, and I think there is this kind of. A bit of respect that you've managed to get to year three, in the festival world.
Well, a lot of them collapse after 1 or 2 years.
And a lot of them collapse before they even get there, and so to get to year three, you're starting to sort of gain a bit of trust and a bit of respect, and and also you've got some footage coverage and things that they can look back at and see the vibe and see whether they fit in and all this kind of stuff, so that really helps, and going forward. I mean, I thought, and you're in marketing, and that like this year is basically an advert for next year.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Every year is an advert for the next thing. So you've got to get a bit of a track record to get your, basically your foot under the table, really.
So with the Discovery guys, obviously you have the CAF where you do the live music sessions, but how do you go about discovering them and finding them?
Yeah, I mean, it's purely, Spotify is an amazing thing. Since all that kind of streaming sites and, imagine trying to find these people in the olden days, it was like you go down the record shop, go down the record shop and you like trying to, but you pick up all the stuff that and to discover new. I suppose it would be they'd be supporting a band in a if you were going to watch a band or something, but I sort of discover Spotify and I hear other people talking about people and sometimes you might stumble upon people. You go to another festival and someone's playing there, they're interesting. I mean, I went to Tunes in the Dunes last weekend, and down there, and there was not just the big stage, but they had their small stage, and we spent a lot of time in the small stage, and I was thinking, right, they're coming, you know, they're coming to our festival. Certain people, they just fit your vibe.
Yeah.
And you think, so then what you do, you go away from that festival, then you look them up and blah, 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 and save their stuff. And I went down to a great little venue, actually, in Ashford. So I think it's called St Andrew's Church or something. It's right in the middle of Ashford. And when they're not using it as a church, they turn it into a music venue. And it's like, it's brilliant. You know,
very cool.
Yeah, the acoustics are really cool.
Yeah,
it looks really cool and all lit up and all the stuff. But there was a guy there, and we went down there to watch Turin Breaks.
Okay, yeah, cool.
Yeah, and what a venue to watch them in.
Absolutely.
I think I was about 250 people. You know,
that's cool. That's nice and intimate.
Yeah,
as well,
that's right. And but their support act, a guy called Concrete Kid.
Okay, yeah.
I loved him. I mean, he was not only really entertaining musician, but comedian as well. You know, like
it's got the personality.
In between. You know, and so you think, right, remember him, and I've contacted him, and you know, the idea is to build up a bit of a roster of people that are, you know, come 2024, I can go, right, let's try them, you know, and sort of, but yeah, that's basically the discovery side. I mean, I try and find as many local people as I can, and you know, and I've discovered Folkestone is a great source of live music.
Yeah, Folkestone's really changed in the last few years.
It's a great place to spend an evening. I mean, you can go literally from bar to bar and watch loads of different live music and DJs and all sorts of stuff's going on down there. You know, and you always have a great night out in Folkestone.
Yeah.
And I think I've booked probably 4 bands that I've seen in Folkestone.
Oh, that's cool.
For this year, yeah. No,
that's very cool.
So yeah. And it's it's about getting yourself out there again, getting your backside off your settee in front of the telly, and
that's the thing, isn't
and
it?
going out and actually watching, watching people. And sometimes you get pleasantly surprised. You walk into a bar and not taking any notice of who's playing in there, walk in and go, blimey. You know, I didn't expect it to be this good, or you didn't even know there was someone playing anyway. You know,
something about live music, I think, like it really changes the evening.
Oh, completely.
You know, and there's a difference between live music when people hire someone just to play the same old thing that's been played. You know, Neil Diamond's been played for the 50th time by someone who's been doing it very unhappily in a pub for 30 years.
Yeah.
But hearing originals, you're getting to hear something that's pretty special to that person because they've taken the time to write it down, put some music with it, and do something.
Yeah.
And it seemed like, I don't know, it felt like in the last decade or so, it was dying. Like even more so, even the last 2 decades, I would say. The 2000s were pretty horrible, the live music venues.
Yeah.
I used to live in London and go to the Borderline quite a lot. And then when I moved away and I went back to visit, it's all R&B, club and everything now, which is nothing wrong with R&B.
No.
But it's very hard to find a live music venue.
Yeah.
And I felt like the last 2 decades were punishing it, but it seems like now, especially like you say in Folkestone,
well, I think
to revive.
You know what happens? I mean, some legislation goes through government that changes the rules on licensing for live music, right? So that cocks it all up. And then bars can't have no more than a duet or whatever. So the bands then die, and they've got nowhere to play. And it's about having venues for these guys to play at. Which is why we done the coffee shop,
the cafe,
and you're giving somewhere for people people who come to our thing. Proper music lovers. I mean, we're not a pub with a live musician. We put on live music and we create a bar. And there's a difference.
Yeah.
So the people that come to us generally, they're not coming for just a drink and there's a bit of live music in the background. They're coming to see the music, which is lovely. And it's good for the musicians because they're not playing to an audience with their backs to them, just chatting to their mates. It's
people interested in actually
in what they're actually doing, and they get a proper music audience, and that's what a live music venue creates. It doesn't create. It's not somewhere where you just go for a drink. It's somewhere where people want to, they go to listen to the music and have a drink while they're doing it.
Yeah.
and there's a distinct difference, and those sort of places are very far and few between, but getting
It's
better.
starting to feel like there's a slight revival with
There
it,
is,
but it did. It felt for the last
And
2
I
decades.
think that's what it is. I mean, like, you know, if you take away the place where people can play music, it's
Well, you're taking away the potential for that music to develop.
exactly.
They need to be able to stretch their legs.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So actually, the beer we're drinking's from Loddington Farm, where you're at, right?
Yeah.
Where your business is
Yeah.
at there.
Yeah,
So Musket Brewery.
Musket guys, yeah.
Yeah, it's cool. I actually quite enjoyed the last beer, which was a powder burn. I'm trying their Matchlock Mild now, so it's a mild.
Oh, right, okay.
So not an ale drinker normally, but yeah, it's going down all right.
Yeah, I'm on the Flintlock.
There
I
we go.
think. Yeah, Flintlock. So it's really really nice.
It's cool. The little setup that you guys have got at Loddington Farm and with James, it's quite cool because it's created this whole community of little businesses.
Yeah.
When
I suppose James is luckily for us quite a forward-thinking sort of farmer, and wants to make the best of his land. He's gone like very sort of very organic, regenerative, blah blah blah, all this kind of stuff, which I mean, I don't know a great deal about it. I've sort of looked into it, and I've followed various people that are sort of on the same wavelength as James, and I don't think it's very good for the bank balance, but it's very good for the environment and knowing that your food is coming from, you know,
decent sources.
Decent
and stuff
sources,
like that.
because you know.
I mean, we discuss it a lot at home. Actually, you buy a tomato and it doesn't taste like a tomato.
Exactly.
You know, it just tastes like something watered down that looks like a tomato, but it's not.
Yeah.
And I think probably culture's changing a little bit now, because very much a 90s and early 2000 thing was just being able to get cheap food. I think people are very much more considerate about where they get their food from, what the source is and stuff like that.
Yeah. And it's about, like, you know, what I mean, it seems ridiculous that farmers in this country have to think about diversifying their land to do other things that's going to actually keep their farm going, and rather than what the farm is for. If you know what I mean. I mean, like the farmers, you know, I believe that Loddington Farm is like 5 generations of fruit growers, and it's got to a point now where you cannot afford to grow fruit and sell it to the British market.
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? The supermarkets are crazy with it as well. The prices they pay.
Yeah, and you know, and they just say that it's an open market, and if the British farmers can't compete, then they can't compete, and you know, it's really wrong. And but I mean, I'm not the right person to talk about this stuff because I don't know enough. I hear about it. But
you
perhaps James would be another good podcast.
Yeah, I'll definitely have to get him on. Like he seems like an interesting fellow. Like you said, 5 generations of farming is quite amazing.
Yeah, and now he's at the point where, you know, the farm just doesn't work. It doesn't work as a fruit farm, which is really amazing. You know, when it's cheaper to buy an apple from elsewhere in Europe or anywhere else in the world than grow it and pick it and deliver it to a supermarket that's 10 miles down the road. And
it doesn't make much sense, does it?
No, it's crazy. But James will know a hell of a lot more than that than me.
He's a pretty switched on bloke though, so I'm pretty sure he'll be able to get that running fine and everything like that. I don't think Loddington Farm's going to end with James. I think
No. Well, this is what I'm saying. James is very forward thinking, and I think like he's the one now that goes, we need to do something, rather than let this just fizzle out into nothing. It's about now, him doing something now that's going to benefit in. I mean, because this is the thing with farming or anything, and festivals even. It's a long process. It doesn't happen overnight. You know, you've got to, put changes in now that's going to probably benefit you in 5, 6, 7, 8 years' time. You know,
I think that's the same with any business in reality.
Yeah,
I think a lot of people. Funny enough, we had another podcast we did a couple of weeks ago, and we were chatting about it. And the gent was saying a lot of people look at me running my business now. They think I'm a multi-millionaire. And he says because they see the business, it looks awesome, but they don't realise literally just now I'm only just starting to take a salary from it.
Yeah.
And it's a long game investment.
It is. And not only that, I mean, there's a lot of kind of people that work in the corporate world that you know, they work for the man and, you know, it must be lovely. You can do whatever you want. Yeah. You know, I've never worked so hard.
In your life.
In my life. Yeah. You know, when you start a business or, you know, I mean, I'm not a businessman. You know, the crux of it is I'm a carpenter. I'm a cabinet maker. Yeah. I'm not a businessman. You know, there's a difference. I'm a creative person, and you know, I mean, someone who's good at business can probably walk into any business, not even knowing the business, and make it work. You know, I'm you know, the likes of someone like me, I'm good at creating things, not so good at making it into a business. You know,
that's a business in itself, though. Being able to create is something. That's a business.
It is. You know, it's knowing. I think knowing your worth is a hard thing.
Yeah.
It's knowing how you quantify your skill.
Yeah.
Is really difficult.
Yeah.
Because you never a good creative person never prices their stuff.
Yeah,
correctly.
sure. Yeah,
you know,
my stepfather was a really good wrought iron worker, and when I was a kid in school holidays, I would help him install these things into houses. I was like stair balustrades or lovely big gates that we just discussed earlier on at the end of doctors' driveways and stuff like that. Yeah. But we would be turning up to these people's houses, and they were obviously very wealthy people to be able to afford this, because he would do these custom things like, you know, wrought iron roses with petal, everything individually made.
Yeah.
And I say, well, what are we charging for this? And you hear the price and you're like, you have no idea. They'd probably pay 10 times the price for that. Or an old lady would ring him up and he would go, oh, it's an old lady. Yeah, I feel sorry for her.
But it is, I mean, and ultimately, creative people do it for the craft.
Yeah.
You know, my biggest thing for me is finishing a job and then seeing the customer's reaction. Which is stupid because I've got nothing in the bank, you know. But internally, like for me, myself, I mean, and everybody's different. I get more out, and actually the creative process, me actually making something from what is a pile of wood on the floor into maybe a beautiful piece of furniture that's going to be in someone's house for the rest of their lives or whatever, and that is more of a buzz and more of a driver than money.
And I think that's probably translated to why the festival's doing as well as it is, because you've not looked at it from I'm going to try and make X amount of money from a festival.
I'll tell you what, if it was about money, I would definitely go and do something else.
Yeah.
You know, because if it was just about money, because you do not make money, no matter what anyone thinks, you don't make money. Not at this early stage. It may, you know, if you can sustain yourself.
Yeah. In year 50, you'll be creaming it.
Exactly. Yeah. So, you know, it's a difficult thing to make money at. And I think if money becomes the driver, that's when a festival will lose its soul and what it's about. You know, and they will become a bit corporate and it's all advertising and it's all, you know,
plastic decorations and things to try and make it feel cool to sell tickets.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. And we're definitely not that. We're you know, and I want it to stay like that. I want it to stay cool and rustic and you know, a real sort of nice kind of I don't know, family. You know, I you know, use the word that family thing a lot, and I see that the Blue Reef thing being a family thing, like where everybody's part of it, and you know, hopefully we can get to a stage where, you know, we know everybody there. You know, it becomes that kind of real kind of family. You know, everybody loves it, everybody knows it, and everybody's a part of it. And
I think what you were saying about creating and not thinking about for the money, whether it's cabinets or whatever, not is, and what you're doing now is really what you've put into the vibe of the place. And I think probably talking about a little bit about the vibes probably something important, because people who are hearing for the first time Blue Reef Festival sounds cool. There's Reef playing this year and whatnot, but the vibe has a lot to do with it.
Yeah, and that's what we've tried to do is build it around the vibe. It doesn't. I mean, I've spoken to a lot of people. They don't really care who's playing. You know, they love it. They trust me to choose the music that they would like. But they're not so bothered about it being Ed Sheeran or whoever. You know, like it's about the whole experience. It's so. I don't know, I can't explain it. So it's ultra friendly. You know,
I got that vibe when I was there. You know, everyone's. I've been to a lot of festivals. You know, and I like them as well. Don't get me wrong. There's a time and a place in your life for a really messy festival. I've done my fair share of them. Yeah. But there's also a thing where you get to a certain age and you're looking for something different in life. And when we rocked up, it was like you had this whole sort of background history with the VW camper cruise, sort of people turning up. Yeah. You've got the sort of the surf culture and vibe, the skate thing going on, that acoustic session of music. This year you've got amazing DJs coming in, playing the sort of vibe there. And it just felt like this is a really happy place. I don't see any trouble going on. No. There's families from like, you know, young kids with the parents coming out to enjoy it, from older people coming to enjoy it. And it also doesn't feel cheesy, because I think a lot of times when you hear this, oh, we're a family-friendly festival, generally when you turn up to something like that, I feel like I'm in Disneyland, if it makes any sense.
Yeah, because it's more aimed at that. Yeah. You know, I mean, we've sort of always said that we're family. It's a family festival, but we're not kind of necessarily a children's festival.
Sure.
Yeah, so you bring your kids. I mean, kids of all ages love our festival. They feel safe. It's a nice environment. It's just it looks lovely. There's room. So it's not like, you know, you're not going to lose your kids, or, you know, they all feel safe, and it's aimed at families, but not necessarily a children's festival. You know, we're never going to have Mr. Tumble up on stage. or
Sorry, Mr. Tumble.
Yeah.
If you're listening, you're out.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with Mr. Tumble.
No, good for him. I salute the dude, to be fair. Like, who would have thought to have done that and make a career out of it?
Yeah,
so,
totally.
good for him.
But there's a place for that, and unfortunately our festival isn't.
Yeah, it's just not the place.
You know, and it's just a nice. It's a nice. I mean, I use that word vibe a lot.
Yeah, I've noticed. Yeah.
And it is. It's and it's almost like you say. I mean, our business, Blue Reef, was started by doing camper van interiors, and we became quite renowned for high-end, solid wood, you know, nice camper interiors, and that's where the Blue Reef thing comes from. So it's got. I mean, I'm into my surf stuff, as you know, and so the name is kind of revolved around that. I mean, you know, including surfing, skating, all that kind of encompassing, you know, thing. So the festival got its name because people say Blue Reef and it's inland and all this kind of thing. And, you know, it is a bit of a weird one, but it's not really to do with that. It's because it kind of is our business name.
I don't see an issue. We had the discussion here when we were talking about it, and actually one of the gents, I was like, yeah, you know, surf, beach, skating vibe, you know. And I was like, but it's Maidstone. Yeah. And I'm like, but you go to an Ibiza night, when you go to a club sometimes, it's nowhere near Ibiza.
Yeah.
You're trying to give that vibe and that festival feel.
But it is. I mean, I want people to feel. I know that, I mean, like I say, I went to Tunes in the Dunes. Yeah. And the weird thing is, Tunes in the Dunes, and I'm not sort of saying they're doing anything wrong, because they got a lot of people there and it was a lovely, brilliant festival. But it's got no surf vibe, and it's on
the beach,
right on the beach. I mean, you've got the surf in the background and all that kind of thing, but you know, and anyway, we kind of create a surfy vibe, and we're in so it's
and I think that's also down to like the vendors that you get on board and everything like that. It's not just anyone can come in. It's,
I mean, there is. I mean, and funnily enough, I mean, Kent's not renowned for its surf, but there is a strong surf scene here. All the coasts, you can surf if you know what you're doing. You can surf anywhere on the Kent coast. Joss Bay's got the sort of the premium spot where everyone thinks that's where you go. But you can surf pretty much anywhere. I spend a lot of time in Folkestone, and invariably sometimes or a lot of the time you can surf that beach if you get lucky
enough.
Yeah. I mean, it's there, and there's like I say, it's a strong sort of crowd of people that are, and there's lots of surfers in London.
Yeah, and I don't think you have to go to the beach. You're providing an experience and a culture and a feel.
That's right. Yeah,
and what I think things like this are great because you're bringing it to people and making it accessible. Part of what we were discussing earlier on as well. It's funny because now I know you, and I talk about this and start talking about the bands that are there. And we had a barbecue the other weekend, and I had Tom Dibb playing, and then Thomas Abrams, and then Samuel Ashton, and David Midge, and all these people I only found through you.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have heard this before,
No.
and now they're like my top 10
on
sort of
your
things.
Playlist.
I've listened to the same tracks for years because I didn't feel that new music coming out really suited me. I was stuck in the sort of the 70s, the 90s grunge thing and everything like that. Then you went to this sort of 2000s cheese rock, which really never hit me. So there was this 20-year hiatus of music that I just didn't really find any new tracks. So you're listening to your same sort of old playlists on Spotify, which is great. I still love them. But to get this sort of new lease on life of music was amazing.
Yeah.
And chatting to these people about, like, they're like, where is this music from? You always have great music, but where's this from? And I'm like saying, it's from this festival, I met John, and he's running this thing. And they're like, you know him? I'm like, yeah. Can you get us free tickets? And my answer is no.
Yeah.
Because what people don't realize is if you don't support a business like this, it doesn't exist.
It's gone.
I'm sure if I came to you and said, John, would you mind if I got 2 tickets for this person? You'd probably be a lovely person and say yes. But my point to these people is, if you think it's great, support it.
Yeah.
Because what happens when you don't support it is it doesn't exist anymore.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. We can't do it. We can't do it without it being paid for.
Yeah.
And realistically, that's all I want to do. Yeah. I just want it to pay for itself.
Yeah.
If I can get a bit out of it, then happy days. But at the moment, it's about sustaining it, and it is about supporting these guys. The guys that are, I mean, we got guys coming to the festival, and their day job is busking. They're busking.
Yeah. I remember coming back after seeing Thomas Abrams play live for the first time and talking to one of my colleagues, and then showed him this clip, like, check out this geezer, like, going on the guitar, foot pedals, sampling, looping, doing everything, covering even tracks, and in my opinion, doing it even better.
Yeah.
And his only comment to me was, please tell me this guy does this full time and he doesn't have to work another job.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, he's still, working another job. It's pretty hard to get discovered out there.
Absolutely.
And we were like, it's
and
gutting.
especially with that kind of genre of music. I mean, it's not, played anymore on radio. You don't, you listen to sort of, all the big sort of radio stations, and it's just all the same old, and they won't, there is some stuff out there. The BBC do some stuff, don't they?
They do some pretty cool stuff,
discovering or whatever it is, and
it just feels their listenership's going down a little bit, though.
Yeah,
and that's the thing. People are tuning into the same stuff over and over again. And it's getting harder for bands to get discovered.
Yeah, I mean, so really, the festival scene for these guys is where it kind of happens and gets them their discovery. Otherwise, and again, if people don't support it, the festival dies. These guys have got nowhere to play. Well, what are they going to do? They go and end up working in a supermarket or whatever it is, driving a van or whatever. And that again, that creativity, that talent is basically gone, isn't it? I mean,
the biggest victim out of that is the people who don't realise that it's going to affect them. Because you don't get that new music. You don't get these people coming through.
Yeah.
You know, you see someone busking on the street, most of us walk by it, but actually listen to them for a minute.
Yeah.
See if they're any good. You
Yeah.
know, it's a great thing to hear.
Absolutely.
Because you never know where they're going to be in 10 years. And if you don't just spend that minute, like you said, they have to go off and do something else.
Yeah. I mean, there was a thing I saw the other day, and it was, I can't remember the guy's name, and it's really bad because he's one of the most talented musicians in the world and plays a £1 million violin, you know, and cool. He's a violinist, and he sells out massive arenas, and he went busking.
Oh, cool, yeah. We'll see if anyone would listen to him. Yeah.
No one took any notice whatsoever, you know, and it's just, you would pay probably £200 to have a seat right at the back at one of his gigs, you know.
Perception, isn't it?
Yeah, totally.
Like people will look at it and do it, I mean, there's some times where I hear this sort of music and then you have to stop and listen to it. You can't help yourself, you hear something. Amazing.
I mean, one of the guys we've got playing at the festival, Samuel Ashton, an amazing talent. What a voice! I mean, and I was walking in Canterbury, and I could hear him busking, and I sort of said, I know who that is, without seeing. I could hear his voice. I said, that's Samuel Ashton, and walked through, and there he was busking, you know, and he's got one of the most incredible voices and a brilliant musician, and yet he's in Canterbury High Street, you know,
busking away.
Yeah. But he's
I don't think he'll be there long. I think he's destined for bigger things.
I think so. But like we were saying, is the market out there for them at the moment? You know,
I don't know. I think hopefully with events like yours, it will start to open people up to a different sort of music. And I think it's like, I love his music.
Yeah.
Like the stuff I've heard from your festival exposing me and your Blue Reef sessions at the coffee shop exposing me, it starts to make you think, oh yeah, I don't only like that. I like this as well. You don't have to pick sides, you know.
No, that's right.
And it's refreshing to have that change as well.
Yeah.
To bring it in there.
Yeah, totally. But I mean, I hope that. I mean, it's one of my biggest hopes actually that the festival opened. It's almost like an education in a way to educate people that, you know, these guys are as good as anybody that you listen to on the radio, or better in some instance. They just haven't got that exposure, or, you know, a lot of them haven't got the finance to be able to market themselves.
Yeah, that's tough as well, isn't it?
Yeah, that's what I mean. So they can't market themselves. They can't, you know. Loads of people aren't, you know, on what's the biggest streaming platform? Like probably Spotify.
Yeah, for sure.
They you know, on there.
It's competitive as well, Spotify, because everyone uploads their content there for free.
Yeah.
You only get paid on plays unless you're the top artists and whatnot. So.
Exactly. Yeah, it's difficult, and you got YouTube, I suppose, and you know, and but yeah, I mean.
Social media. There's been people discovered through social media, but it's a tough nut to crack. You have to be right on the pulse and right timing, constantly on it. And then even that, there's a certain thing people are looking for out there at certain times. They're not usually looking for new discovery. They're looking for things they know. Yeah.
But some of even some of those sort of discoveries have been found by them playing somebody else's music.
Yeah, generally. It's cover stuff.
Yeah, you know, and it's so hard. I mean, it's a bit like... you go to a gig, so I don't know, you might go and see The Jam or whoever, I mean, Paul Weller or whatever, and he does a load of new stuff. And all you want him to do is play Town Called Malice, or, you know...
We went to see Reef and Margate the other week. You invited us along.
Yeah.
It was great. Go see them down at Dreamland. And obviously everyone's waiting for Place Your Hands On. But actually, I think one of the first songs they played was "Shoot Me Your Ace" from the new album.
Yeah, amazing song.
And I was like, "Oh my god,
Yeah,
this is awesome!
it's like,
it's thumping." It's like,
well, it's from the off. It's having it. You know, proper old school rock music. Yeah,
thumping like kick drum going and everything.
They do
like
that so well. You know, and it's. Great,
I thought it was one of the best tracks they played all night.
Yeah,
to be fair.
it's a great song.
Yeah, I actually can't wait to see it at the festival here in Maidstone because your sound system is like pumping.
Oh yeah, we've got that is one thing. I mean, you know, SA events, who we get to do the sound, they are amazing at that. The sound quality is incredible, and I think to see Reef on that stage with that sound is just going to be, you know, one of those. I mean, I think, you know, for me it'd be like going to heaven, you know. And, but yeah, I can't wait actually to see them giving it that. And I mean we've also got Brandon coming, Brandon Block.
Brandon Block, yeah, superstar DJ
DJ legend.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's going to be an interesting one as well.
Because it's the first year you've got an official DJ tent, right?
Well, yeah, I mean we've sort of always sort of doubled the DJ tent up as an acoustic stage type thing. So we've got three separate areas for music now. So we'll have the main stage and I keep calling it the acoustic stage, but it's not an acoustic stage, just a smaller stage. Yeah,
sure.
So stage 2, if you like, and then we're going to have basically a dance arena, if you know what I mean. Yeah. So it'll be a whole dance area and the DJs will be playing pretty much the whole weekend.
That's awesome.
In there, so
it's kind of cool. It's a cool vibe then, because you can go see something that's playing out quite big on the main stage or stage 1. If you feel like having a bit of a chilled out zone, step over to stage 2 for a bit.
Absolutely,
and then like go and dance in the evening.
Yeah, well, the good thing is between stage 1 and stage 2, we alternate the music anyway, so you don't miss anything.
Okay,
you know, cool. So literally, stage 1, main stage, will stop. Small stage will start. All you've got to do is basically turn 90 degrees, and you can watch that one, and then turn 90 degrees, and then watch that one. So you know, you don't have to keep moving around, and you know you're not going to miss anything other than, you know, you might miss a DJ set or something. Sure. But you know, whatever, you can have a wander about. You can you know, you'll get to see everything very easily.
What's it like going from first year dealing with smaller artists to now dealing with people like Reef, Brandon Block, Top Loader, and this sort of thing?
Yeah, I mean, it's different.
Yeah,
it's you're dealing with agents and managers, and you know, and proper money, and it's a bit of a different. I mean, normally I you know, year 1 we talk to the musician.
Yeah, sure.
You know, and then as you go through, you don't talk to the musician.
You get further and further removed from.
Yeah, I might talk to the musician initially, but they straight away pass you on to an agent who is much harder to deal with. I mean,
they've got to pay for their gates at the end of a driveway, right?
Exactly, and it's the creative and the businessman. I mean, like, you know, there's that, like I say, and that's why creatives have managers and businessmen, because they can't do the management bit.
I get it as well. Like, you're busy, you've got loads of things to do. They must get a few offers and stuff through as well.
Oh yeah, I mean, you imagine having to deal with, you know, if you were someone like Ed Sheeran, without all that stuff going on, people to sort it out for you. I mean,
busy fighting lawsuits, building half a village out somewhere in England. I don't know where the village is.
Yeah, but you know, or even, I mean, not necessarily as big as Ed Sheeran even, but like, you know, even you know, the Reef guys, they must get like loads of messages and stuff and things to deal with.
See them on their social, they're touring all the time.
Yeah.
And pumping out. So they're not shy of offers.
No.
Dealing with that all the time, plus travel, plus playing, and trying to keep in that same thing. There's always one thing that amazed me about, because when we saw them in Margate, they'd obviously been playing for quite a bit before. And it's always amazing. You need to be on top level every night, because it's your 10th night in a row.
Yeah.
But for the people there, like for us, it was for me. It was the first night seeing him. Like it's the first time I've seen him since the '90s.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like I know they've been touring, but hadn't gone and see him, and it was like, wow, that's great. I can't believe they kept up that energy level.
Yeah.
For stuff they've been
And
playing,
it's night after night after
Yeah.
night for the last God knows how
However
many
many
years.
years, yeah.
It's amazing. Yeah, but it's like any job, isn't it?
Yeah.
We get
Yeah,
up
but
and
you
go to
walk
work.
into a Starbucks and the lady who's been there for 10 days, you can tell her spirits dropped, right? So,
Yeah, I suppose, yeah. We don't have
the name
to.
on your cup just becomes
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah, I can go and have a quiet day at work and not talk to anyone and don't have to perform necessarily.
Exactly. You can sit in my job. I can sit there on a bad day and keep quiet to myself and plod along with something I'm doing.
Yeah,
But to have to come out in front of like thousands of people,
yeah,
I think they've paid good money for this and put on a show.
that's it.
If you're having a shit day, that's a difficult thing to do.
Oh God, yeah.
But I was impressed. Yeah, I was like, wow, that's cracking.
No, they smash it. And they are one of Britain's best live rock bands. It's as simple as that. They are sort of going, aren't they? The sort of rock bands as such. They don't really kind of. There's no. I mean, they are coming through, but obviously, like we were saying earlier, they don't get that radio.
Yeah, the same
play,
exposure.
and so they don't get the exposure.
It's a different vibe and a different culture. I don't have an issue with any of the new music.
No.
It's just not for me.
No,
like most of it.
And that a lot of that new music can't sort of translate into a live music venue that it doesn't really do it.
A lot of it's ballads and stuff like this for people to sing along. I feel most of the time a lot of storytelling is lost. That's what I think is really being lost, the art of storytelling in rock and roll. You get these great long tracks where you feel like, I've learned something at the end of that, or I felt what that person's singing about.
Yeah.
And most of the time now it's a ballad about a girl, who's so special that 5 guys are singing about her. Or, you're the one, but it's like 5 of us. Or the same repetitive thing, at a club or doing this, and it's an image projection rather than a story.
Yeah, totally.
It just seems to be lost.
Yeah,
now.
yeah.
And it just seems like music most of the time is becoming meaningless. It's catchy. Don't get me wrong. You'll catch me humming it.
Yeah. No, I think the album thing. I know vinyl, all that sort of stuff's coming back, but the album thing has lost its way a little bit with the streaming. So you don't need to. You used to put a record on and it will go all the way through the album.
All the way through, yeah.
Now you pick a track you like and you just listen to that and then go back to that one and like the days of the concept album has sort of gone a little bit, isn't it? Where it was a story all the way through.
Yeah. They would have a theme, wouldn't they? Like
exactly.
You would get that album out and it would be a theme. It would be a political thing or be a fight against something. And now it's like, this one's about a club, this one's about this thing.
Yeah, so it's kind of losing its way a little bit with that, but because of the streaming thing, you can just pick and choose.
One thing I do like about the streaming thing, because like Spotify have this thing like your weekly discovery.
Yes.
And so they base it on whatever you've been listening to, and they'll suggest other things. And through that, I found some other cool things.
Oh, totally. Yeah. And a lot of the time I will put on an artist and then just go to their radio thing, and you discover so many new acts through that. And some of them they pop up and they've got less than 1,000 monthly kind of listens, and sometimes you think, how comes, it's just an amazing sort of song or singer, and but you would never have heard them before, would you? No.
So this year's lineup, obviously Reef, top loader.
Yeah,
don't need much introduction.
No,
you've got Funky and the Two-Tone Baby.
Yeah, who's amazing. I mean, like, he's one of those. He's a music act you need to watch.
Yeah.
I've never seen so much energy, I don't think, come out of one bloke and so many instruments.
So when last year at the festival, we were shooting just a bit of footage, and I was acting as producer, pulling people for interviews with the camera man, and I saw Funky and the Two-Tone Baby walking by. I didn't know he was performing.
Right,
He was
okay.
just coming back with a pint.
Yeah.
So I said, oh, he looked cool. Like, I'll pull him over. So I said, do you mind if we grab a bit of footage? Yeah, absolutely cool. And he's like, I'm Funky and the Two-Tone Baby, and I will have this place on its feet later tonight.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
he did,
and he
mate.
properly
Yeah,
did.
he did.
Yeah, God, he smashed it.
Yeah, it was the great. I was like, oh, right.
I mean,
crap,
the good thing is, you know, I ended up introducing him to that crowd, and probably most of that crowd hadn't heard him. I mean, there was. I did notice a very sort of niche audience at his point where they all had inflatable bananas.
I see this now, yeah.
Yeah, and so I gathered they were Funky fans. So, but I think, I mean, I've heard it from people after they were like, we didn't know what to expect. We was thinking, like, because of his name with the two-tone thing in it, they was thinking ska music or something like that, and then literally he hits you slap bang in the face from the first bar.
Yeah.
You know, it literally is like, and it is amazing. He's such a talented artist.
Yeah, he comes on hard. Like, there's not like a let's build into this gently.
No, it's
like hold on, we're going for a ride.
Exactly, and it does not stop until the end. And you know, there's none of this kind of having a little bit of a breather. It's flat out all the way through, which is great.
And what I loved about his music, because sometimes when you're hearing new music for the first time, it's really hard to get on board.
Oh, yeah, totally.
But with his, it's so much energy.
Yeah.
You can't help it.
Yeah.
It's like being on a roller coaster.
You cannot help but dance to it either. And so it's strange. It's a bit like rock, dance, blues.
Yeah.
It's a bit of everything.
It's got like a little
thrown
bit
in,
of punk sort of attitude in it
Yeah,
sometimes
totally.
with some of the lyrics that he does and everything like that.
Yeah, very, very punky.
Yeah.
And well, I thought he was amazing. And I went to see him down at Canterbury, actually, at the Penny Theatre, and it was just, you know, one of those. That was good, actually. I was getting people there coming up and saying about Blue Reef.
Oh, that's cool.
Recognising me and saying, oh, you're the... And, we've got people who are actually going to be having their honeymoon
Oh, fantastic.
at the Blue Reef Festival and stuff like that. And, you know, they were there. And no, it was really good. And
That's nice.
You've got this kind of, you know... I think what we've done is kind of introduced some people to new acts, and now they see them and they go and watch them, and then of course I end up there, and you know.
I think also what happens, like you've just said, like it creates that memory for them.
Yeah,
like,
totally.
That's where I met such and such.
Oh,
or
yeah,
that's
yeah,
where
yeah,
we were
that's
doing
right.
such and
Yeah,
such.
yeah,
And
exactly.
I think music's already powerful enough for that anyway.
Yeah,
they talk
is,
about that with like people with dementia. You know, bringing music therapy into it.
Oh yeah.
And for us, like you'll remember something in your life and you'll associate a song with it. And you're part of that now.
Yeah,
you're
or the other way around.
Yeah.
You know, you hear a song and it will take
show
you straight back to that moment.
Yeah.
You know, and that's the beauty of music, isn't it? And I really find it hard when people say, I'm not into music.
Yeah.
And I just think, you know, how can you not be into music?
Yeah.
It's just that you know, we're kind of built. I mean, we can dance before we can walk. You know, kids dance in their prams, or even in the belly.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of built into us, and you know, I think when people say they're not into music, they just haven't found their
vibe yet.
Yeah, you haven't found what they're into. But
I think my son's at that stage. He's like 13, and I think he's still waiting to find his
find
vibe.
the thing. Yeah. Well, I mean, you're into music, so I guess
everything I've got gets forced upon him.
Yeah,
so my daughter picks up my vibe very quickly.
Yeah,
and I think my son's resisting. He's
no,
like, I'm going to find mine.
Yeah, I think, you know, my daughter. I mean, I sort of hear my daughter's music taste, and you can tell her where she's been inspired, you know, and how she's been inspired. It's a lovely thing. She really does like her music, and you know, and it's a really good eclectic taste in music. And I mean, you know, I just whisked through a Spotify playlists and things, and it's just
when you're checking the WhatsApp and everything else at the same time.
Oh no, I wouldn't dare. God dear. But the, you know, the music, she's definitely got decent taste in music, and not what I would consider the norm, and it's nice, you know.
Oh, that's cool.
Like I was saying earlier, I mean, the beauty of Folkestone is you can have no agenda, no plan, no nothing. So we're going to go out with not even knowing where you're going to go. You know, you just walk down and you'll hear music, and you just go in there where the music is. You know. Yeah. And if it's not your bag, you know you can walk out that door, go down, and there'll be somewhere else.
You'll find somewhere else, yeah.
And you know, and that's how it works. I mean, we went to one place a few weeks ago now, and they made a big sort of hoo-ha about this thing that they were doing, and they charged tickets to get in. And we went in. We was in there for probably one song, and it was like, no, it's not really our. It was very synthesizer-y, sort of, you know, stacked with 5 keyboards, and it just wasn't our bag. Probably brilliant musician, but it didn't really fit my taste. And we just literally walked out that door, walked across, and there was music that was our taste, you know, and ended up dancing the whole night away, you know, and that's the beauty of it. I mean, that's the beauty of that kind of close-knit town of creative people and obviously bars that are willing to push the boat out and actually put live music on, you know.
And I think it takes a collective there as well.
Yeah.
Like if just one person's doing it, then Folkestone doesn't become the area, like you're saying, that you want to go down to every weekend.
No, that's it. And I mean, what they have done, and bless them, they created the name themselves. They've called themselves the world's first music town.
All right.
So, I mean, and do you know what? I mean, they've called themselves it. Yeah, they haven't been named it by somebody else. Yeah, sure. And but it's
if you name yourself that, you have to live up to expectations.
But it's working. Yeah. You know, what's happened is you've seen this sort of influx of very arty-farty, creative, interesting people coming down there, musicians and live music venues opening up, more bars, more restaurants, more, you know, all this stuff, and all that sort of development on the harbour arm has helped all that, and you know, the goods yard and all that kind of stuff, and you know, and I think it's a very, very up and coming place, and very music orientated, and I wish that somewhere, you know, our hometown, Maidstone, could get on board. And
well, you're doing it already with the cat.
Trying to, yeah. I mean, we're doing it. We have created a live music venue in Maidstone, and that, you know, out of all that, I mean, it's not like we were saying earlier, it's not like going to a pub. Yeah. And there's just live music on.
That's what I was just about to say. Distinguish between live music. It's not just live music. It's real, individual, original music.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing. That's the difference. And there is definitely a market for it. We just need to you know, educate people on it.
Yeah, I think just get the word out enough as well, I think is the thing. I think the more people come each time, it will continue to grow and grow and grow. Because we were there for the Camper Van Live Lounge last time, and you had a pretty good crowd there. I mean, there was a load of people there wanting to watch it. I mean, some of them having too much fun at the end.
Yeah, absolutely.
But that will continue to grow because they tell everyone. Right, but we had a great night. I love the music. Yeah, we had a few beers. You had the gent next door with the wood-fired pizzas.
The good thing is as well, like if you are a camper vanner, we've got the room for people to camp over.
Yeah, that was
so you can bring your camper, you can camp over. You haven't got to worry about taxis or trying to get home and all that kind of stuff, and that creates a decent vibe, a nice, friendly vibe. No one's got to rush off. It's you know, it's very, very chilled. I mean, the camper van people are generally nice, chilled, relaxed people. So it creates that vibe as well. You know, those sort of sessions are becoming really popular and really, and I love them. You know, they're just a really nice thing to do. The musicians love them because it's different.
It's a nice area you've got as well because it's quite outdoorsy.
Yes, it is outdoors, yeah.
It's not stuck inside. People can sort of meander around and chill. What I liked is pretty much everyone was listening to the music.
Well, that's what I was saying. Yeah. It's people come to listen to the music. They don't necessarily, they don't come to us for a pint. It's because we've got music on.
Yeah.
And the good thing is, I mean, that our audience is starting to realise now that we put quality music on.
Yeah.
You know, it's not just...
It's not whoever will come at the cheapest price. It's about
Exactly.
getting people out there
Yeah,
that you
I mean,
actually will
we
endorse.
spend decent money on our music, and it shows. And you know, so people, it's bringing proper music fans to come to us, and it is a bit of a... I mean, I understand we're out in the countryside, you know, and we've got, you know, some lovely views over the Weald and all that kind of stuff, but it's a trot out of town. You have to. Yeah.
It's a different experience. It's scenic.
Well,
it's
totally.
nice,
But that's what I mean. That's what makes it better. The fact that we're out of town in the countryside.
Like
we're not in a pub in town, and you got to pay £400 to park your car, and you got to get your car out of the car park by 11 because it closes. And you know, we're it's a farm, and.
But then, I mean, you said you've got the camping that people can camp up there for the evening and stuff like that as well. I mean, I think it's amazing. Like, when we first got there, it was still like lovely, bright and sunny. As the evening's going on, the music is, the sun's slowly going down. You've got this beautiful, like, behind there's the flower business. I can't remember the name of it.
Blooming Green.
Blooming Green. They've got all this growing their own flowers, so you can cut your own flowers behind.
That's
so you've got all this flowers there. Yeah, so this great live music going on, this vibe.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like, where else do you want to be? You want to be inside some sweaty pub in the city.
In amongst apple orchards.
Yeah, amongst that, yeah.
So, no, it's beautiful, and we're very, very, very lucky to have that, and it's been hard work to get it to be a music venue. You know, I mean, it wasn't a music venue; it was a mushroom shed.
Yeah.
You know, and we've sort of done that. You know, made it into that, and it's been hard work. And again, you know, just dog-eared determination is what we're doing. So like, let's go for it and make it happen. And it's still evolving now. You know, it's not the finished article by any means. It's, you know, we're still evolving. We're still finding ways of making it better, and that will carry on as time goes on. You know, we got Neil Camper Coffee just down the 2 doors down, who does catering. He's got his, you know, wood-fired pizza oven.
They're amazing, those pizzas.
That's what I mean.
Honestly.
So, you know,
even if you're not into music, come for the pizza, because I was enjoying that so much last night.
Exactly. So, you know, so it's a whole, the whole thing is laid on. You've got your food, you've got your music, you've got your drink, and it's just.
And the great thing is it's all cross business as well. Yeah. It's not like you're trying to hoard it all in for yourself and keep it in there. No. It's this whole community environment.
The idea is that the businesses at the farm and the farm itself benefits from everything that everyone does there, you know, and it's cross-pollination, you know, so you know, we all kind of help each other. And you know, you know, there's been numerous times that people didn't know about Blooming Green, so you know, they come up and they see the flowers, they, oh, what's that over there? And then you explain it. What a great idea. So again, it generates more business for them. And same thing, like when Blooming Green are doing their pick your own on a Saturday, and we're sort of building our venue ready for the evening's entertainment. There's people out picking flowers who come and talk to us and what's going on, and they end up staying.
Oh, it's fantastic. Yeah.
You know, so it's all this stuff that goes on, and obviously you've got Musket Brewery just behind us who've got their own tap room, so they invariably bring people up. They hear the music that we're putting on, walk round. Oh, blimey, didn't even know this existed. Yeah, didn't even know Blooming Green was there. You know, it's this kind of vibe up there. You know, and there's lots of little creative, nice businesses, and it's all still evolving. You know, I mean, you know, it's been a short period of time really that this has all happened. You know, I mean, I've been there on and off for about 15 years.
Yeah, right, bloody hell.
And you wouldn't believe the transformation of the place in the last in that period of time. You know, it's gone from, you know, I mean, I used to drive up there to load up for work or whatever, and I used to use the sort of mushroom shed as a lockup, and you know, I'd have someone in the van with me, and don't leave me in the van by myself. It's like You know, like it was a bit like, you know, it felt a bit hillbilly sort of country. Yeah, it was a bit like that, and you know, you got sort of like just tin sheds where the roofs are rattling and all that going on, and but yeah, so you know, it's all evolving and you know, the changing by the day. The whole place.
You can feel it when you're there.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
You can feel something's happening and it's something special's there. So
Yeah. And I think Maidstone needs it.
Yeah,
you
for
know,
sure.
that kind of out of town, just somewhere nice to go, and you can you know, you could go there, rock up on a Saturday afternoon, you know, pick some flowers, have a beer. And then come and watch some
fresh food
and watch some live music. In the evening, you know.
I think everyone needs that. To be fair,
yeah, it's one of those sort of places, and long may it continue. But it will only continue if people keep coming.
Absolutely. And speaking of people keep coming, tickets for the festival this year still on sale.
Yes, they are.
So where can people get them?
From the website, www.bluereeffestival.co.uk.
Awesome. So from what I remember, there's Friday night tickets, which is the party night tickets, where you've got Top Loader and Funky and the Two Tone Baby headlining that night.
Yeah.
With a load of other amazing acts, plus a DJ tent. From my point of view, if you don't come to see Funky and the Two Tone Baby, you're mad.
Yeah.
Saturday, you've got Reef headlining.
Yeah.
Someone I'm really excited to see is Rudy Warman and the Heavy Weather.
Oh, yeah. I mean, what an underrated band.
Yeah.
You know, amazing band. And I don't know, it makes you wonder how they're not mega famous.
Yeah.
But do you know what? I speak to some, and they don't want to be.
Well, yeah, I see the behind the scenes of the guys. They're very much like, you know, and God bless them, like animal rights and loving and all this sort of stuff and that sort of thing. But when I first heard their track, I was playing it here for some of the guys in the office. I was like, bloody hell, this is like transporting me back to old school rock and roll.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know,
yeah.
Absolute power ballad. So I'm really excited to see that.
I'm looking forward to them. And Samuel, David Midgen.
That guy's amazing.
You know,
as well.
it's a real good. I mean, good quality, hand-picked lineup.
Yeah.
You know, it's properly thought about.
Yeah.
And I think this year particularly. Will be good for your good muso, you know.
Sure.
Someone who likes good quality live music. You're going to want to see it all, really.
Well, I've listened to all the acts now, and there's not one of them where I said, "Well, that'll be the chance I can go skip."
That's exactly.
Thing,
yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know, and Friday night party night, we've got our you know, covers band, the Heroes, who are like your old school sort of ska and madness and all that kind of stuff. A bit of fun and but they are really good at it, you know. And so they'll be good fun to watch and listen to. And we got, you know, Thomas Abrahams again.
Yeah, he's a talent.
Who just, you know, I mean, I'm actually putting him on Friday and Saturday.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
he's
because he's doing a small set on Friday, and then I'm gonna basically, we've got Brandon Block sort of headlining the DJ sort of arena, but I wasn't going to put Brandon on last, so I thought what we could do is have Reef finish their set, and then Thomas basically warm up before Brandon.
Yeah, that's a nice thing.
Because he's just that kind of act that will be, you know, get people up and dancing and ready
Get some ready for Brandon,
Yeah.
I'm excited to see Brandon Block as well.
Yeah.
It's like that living legend.
Iconic,
there,
isn't he?
Yeah.
You know, he's a great guy and brilliant for us to have him, you know.
Yeah,
he's coming over from Ibiza to come and play
just for the day. Yeah.
Yeah, he's coming over for the day. Yeah, so he's doing. I think he's doing a couple of different festivals in the same day. I think he's, but you know, but particularly for us, and so that'd be nice. And we got various other DJs playing throughout the whole weekend, all slightly different. But yeah, there'll be definitely something for everyone this year. Yeah, and it's going to be be pumping, and I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah. Well, anyone who wants to get tickets, they can get it at www.bluereeffestival.co.uk.
Yep.
Friday night tickets, which is a party night.
Yep.
Saturday tickets, or best option yet is to get the full weekend
Full
tickets.
weekend ticket.
Come and camp, hang out with everyone. Come and feel the full vibe for the weekend. It's great. I'm probably going to camp there this year.
Yeah, we got more camping this year as well.
Yeah.
So we've been given James thankfully has given us a much bigger field area to camp in. So more camping this year.
For me, I always felt like unless you camped at a festival, you didn't really get the full vibe.
You wouldn't. I don't think.
Last year I went back between.
Yeah.
And I was like, I kind of feel like you're leaving.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
You're not there for the whole time.
Yeah, no, it's all part of it. All that night time, waking up in the morning in a field and crawling out your tent and
having that experience. Of
the whole
morning.
thing. It's all that. You got to devote the whole weekend to it. It's the best way to experience it. And I guarantee you a good, full on, happy weekend.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, look, one thing we always do with guests when they're on the podcast, and I'll get you to do it afterwards, is we get you to write down 3 things you'd like to achieve in the next 12 months. So you're someone who's always doing things. So I imagine it's going to be pretty easy for you to think about. It can be with the festival. It could be with the live music cafe. We'll then seal it up in a wax sealed envelope and we'll get you back in 12 months' time and open it up again on the podcast and see what happened, see if the dreams get realised.
Yeah.
Look, it's been amazing having you here. Thank you very much.
It's been a really, really pleasurable experience, actually.
Yeah, it's been good fun. Yeah. It's nice and easy to just have a chat, right?
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Thanks for the suggestion on the beers. I enjoyed them. But look, and more importantly, thank you for organising Blue Reef Festival, because I think without people like you leading the rest of us...
What, the mad people?
A little
mad
bit.
People like me, yeah. I mean, you've got to be pretty crazy, I think.
But we need people like you, because I think...
Well... Yeah,
if we don't have that outlet for ourselves.
It's not there. Yeah. That's right. You need to. I mean, I'm a bit of a risk taker. I'm not a stupid gambler, but I'm quite happy to take a fairly calculated gamble on things, and it's all driven by passion. So, eventually, I suppose if you keep on with your passion, it will work, and it is working.
Here's one question for you, actually. To anyone out there who's thinking about starting their own festival or doing something like this, what advice would you give them?
Don't do it for money. It's got to be about passion and experience. I think if you do it for money, if you think you're going to make money from it, don't do it. If you want probably the most amazing experience, scary, exciting, every emotion experience you can think of, then go for it. But don't do it for money.
That's a good answer.
Because it won't work. It won't work. It's got to be. You've got to put your heart and soul into it. And for money, you won't. You will be doing it for money, and that's They don't generate the money you think they're going to generate. And
but it can generate a lot of other things.
Yeah,
that money can't buy.
Exactly. Yeah. It's experience. It's memories. It's all that other stuff other than money. Yeah. And then if you've got that in your head, then I would recommend doing it, because it's just a lovely thing to do. You're creating memories for people and yourself and your family and your friends and all that. And I think for me, there's been nothing more exciting other than going 150 mile an hour up a straight and breaking into a corner and that's the only other thing. And there's probably other things that I can't talk about on here.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, well, you can kind of talk about anything here, but you might want to save some people's dignity. Fair enough.
Yeah, cool. Yeah. But I'd recommend. There's a couple of things. Everyone needs to get crushed in a machine.
Yeah. I think you should make it a ride at the festival.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. You get crushed in a machine, it'll change your life.
Yeah.
And then don't. I think pretty much everything in life, don't do it for money.
Yeah. I think the whole crushed in the machine thing, what it really boils down is you're only going to get one life.
Totally.
And if you don't make the most of it, like my kids and I were having a chat this morning, everyone's grumpy, everyone's running late, and I'm saying, don't spend your life being grumpy. You're going to get through the end of your life and think, I spent 75% of it being grumpy. It's just a waste.
Yeah.
Enjoy every minute of it. And I think your crushed in the machine experience is, like you said, the best thing that happened to you in your life. Not for the pain, but for what it awoke in you.
Yeah, totally changed my life. It actually brought me back to the person I was before society changed me into the person I was expected to be.
Almost like childlike.
Yeah.
Having aspirations and dreams
exactly
and looking at the real things in life.
And not getting beaten. It's still really tough. God, all the financial stuff and everything, it's still really tough. But I wouldn't do anything else. Like I say, we could all go and work for the man.
Yeah.
And God, what boring existence. I don't begrudge anybody for doing it. We're all different. And we're all kind of got different. The way we accept risk in our lives, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And one of these. My tattoos that I've got, I've only got these tattoos on my arms, but they are all part of this rebirthing thing that went on in my life, And one of them says, we all live two lives. The second one starts when we realise we only have one.
Wow.
Yeah, and that was Confucius, and I heard that on somebody else's podcast.
All right.
And I thought, that's me.
Yeah.
It's sort of like all of a sudden you realise you've only got one chance at this life. You've got to go for it. You ain't going to get another go. You ain't going to get to the end of your life. Actually, I wish. Yeah,
I think that's got to probably be the saddest thing in history, when people get to their end days and say, I wish I did this. You might, I don't think you'll ever regret trying.
Exactly.
Try. You'll regret not trying.
Yeah, exactly.
And so I think the one thing the reason why I loved hearing your story so much and wanted to have you here to chat as well was because I hope that other people can hear it and say, I don't need to get crushed in the machine. Actually, just hearing
somebody else has been crushed in the machine.
Crushed in the machine for me. John got crushed on the cross for me. But that they can hear it and make those decisions themselves without having to face that life-changing thing, because it may not be running a festival. It may be spending more time with your family. It may be spending more time with your kids, going on more
what it is. I do. And I pretty much have done all my life. It's crazy thing, not crazy, but very risky stuff, like racing motorbikes. When I was doing my martial arts, I'd step in a ring and fight somebody, or whatever it is. It's and the festival thing is just an extension of that, really. But you need to, I think you need to go to a certain place to make you actually do it.
Yeah.
Because it's very easy to not do something, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure.
It's quite hard to actually do it, you know, and you can very easily talk yourself out of doing something. Very easily, you know. And like you were saying, there needs to be some crazy people like me to create these things. Otherwise, the world would be a very boring place.
Yeah.
And hopefully we can continue.
Yeah. Well,
and it's all about everybody joining in.
Yeah. Yeah.
Coming out and going down in that field.
Like you said, it starts as your festival, but now it's everyone's.
Exactly. Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Look, make sure. Well, we're going to wrap it up, I think. Let you get on. I know you're driving down to Folkestone tonight, so we can't get too heavy on the beers, but maybe next time we'll go for a bit longer session.
Yeah.
But if you're at home, make sure I'm going to put all the links there where you can buy tickets to the festival. Come down and enjoy it. Don't wait until you get crushed on a machine to get out and enjoy things. Although John's trying his best to get something at the festival. Get your tickets, come down and do it. We'll drop a link for the beers as well that we've been drinking tonight. So if you want to support some other local businesses down there, you can get some of the beer from Loddington Farm from the team at Musket. John, thanks for being here. It's amazing.
No problem at all. I've really enjoyed it.
Yeah, look forward to the next chat as well.
Thanks.
And being at the festival.
Obviously.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thanks, mate.
Cheers, mate.
Cheers. Thanks for tuning in. If you're looking to get tickets to this year's Blue Reef Fest, look out for the link in the description below. Also, if you want to buy some of the Musket beers we were drinking, you can find a link for them as well. Catch you next time.